Thank you for joining us with the Choose to Be podcast. Today, I am talking about a topic that I think comes up in my groups, not every week, but close to every week. It is one of those topics that's really at the heart and the foundation of betrayal, and it's the topic of trust. Trust is one of those things. I hear questions like, will I ever trust him again? Can I trust him? Will I ever trust him to the same level that I trust him? Well, I always have this pain and an uncomfortability of wondering what he's always doing. Can I actually get to this place that I feel enough trust that I'm comfortable in the relationship again? These questions, first of all, I want to validate the heck out of them because betrayal at its very core is destroys the trust. It destroys that foundation that every relationship needs to be able to build upon. So this deep desire and hope to be able to rebuild that trust, to get that trust back within yourself and in your relationship is often at the core of a lot of individuals' couple recovery work. So there's podcast episodes we've done in the past that are on trust. They're great. Go listen to them. Today, I want to look a little bit around trust and pull in some of the work from Hope Ray and the Betrayal Violence Institute. She was on her podcast a couple months back. If you haven't listened to her, go rewind. I guess you don't rewind podcasts, but go back and listen to her. Her work is great. And she uses this term betrayal violence. And anytime we use the word violence, a lot of people can have some very heightened emotional responses to that word. And it can sound scary that there's this betrayal violence that has happened. And the reason I want to bring that in today around trust is I want to look at betrayal through the lens of a violence and then look at how the trust plays into the power differentials in the relationship and how we have this imbalanced power. And then if we use that as a foundation, how we can start rebuilding trust, starting at that very core of that power differential. Okay, betrayal violence. This is what Hope says about betrayal violence. She says, betrayal violence is a type of abuse that occurs in committed relationships where violations of fidelity by one partner take place outside of the awareness of the other partner, who is deliberately deceived about the betrayals in an ongoing manner by the use of power and control. Betrayal violence is characterized by three concurrent modes of conduct exhibited by a person who, one, maintains the appearance of a committed relationship with their significant other. So, in essence, they're in hiding. Two, secretly and repeatedly violates the fidelity of the committed relationship. And three, uses abusive behavior and communication. So, things like gaslighting, manipulation, hiding, lying, omitting. So they use abusive behavior and communication to restrain their significant other from awareness of the violations. So that's her definition of betrayal violence. Now, betrayal violence, what it does to the power and differences in the relationship is when one person is holding information secret. They're holding this information secret, but they're engaging in the relationship in a way that on the outside says, I'm fully here, I'm fully committed. And they are asking the other person to show up and be here and be fully committed and invest in this relationship while secretly hiding. Now we have this power indifference. One person holding the secret information is holding the power. And while it may not look like that on the surface, the person who has these secrets in hiding is holding the power because they have the awareness and the knowledge. The other person can't make decisions with full knowledge and awareness. They can't do things to protect themselves because they don't actually know what's happening. And so when we get this power and difference, and when we have these behaviors, the abusive behaviors and communications that protect the hiding and the lying and the secrecy, which therefore protects that power and difference, then all of a sudden we have an abusive relationship. Now, I'm not talking about physical abuse. That is something totally different. If we have that and emotional abuse, we need to tackle both of those. What I am talking about is the abuse that comes with these power indifferences. And I highly suggest go back and listen to the episode with Hope where we go deeper into this topic. But also, if you go to the Betrayal Violence Institute.org, I believe, we'll put that in the show notes. But if you go to there, you can order her magazine. I feel like it shouldn't be called a magazine because it's just this pamphlet book of just chock full of really good information, but order one of those, take it home, highlight it. I would love for all of my individuals who have been the partner who has betrayed to study this and learn this, because when we actually see at the core what's happening and what's feeding that, and we start to heal that, and we heal it at the core, then we can really start building that trust back up. Then we can really get to these deeper related or rooted issues. First of all, we have to recognize these power indifferences. There is a great video on YouTube that I'll give to clients a lot. It's only 5 minutes long. And on the video, it's Dr. Jake Porter. And the video is called Stay on the Coaster. And in the video, he talks about how we have this power indifference with things that are being hidden. And then he gives this analogy of staying on the coaster or the boat, and how the person who has been lying and hiding has held that power. And so there is a season of time that we have to rebalance the power. And so in rebalancing the power, we are bringing this information out, we're putting it back on the table. So everything is open and transparent. And then that person who has betrayed is in essence giving up more of their power to be more seen and more vulnerable and to help their partner be able to have that safety created. And so it's not a forever situation, but there is a period where they are letting them see every single part of them and then some. And so that transparency is not just a transparency of you can have access to all of me and what's happening and information, but I might be sending you my locations throughout the day. I might be giving you all sorts of extra reassurances. I may be doing things to rebuild the relationship in a place that may look like I am a step down, but the step down period is we are trying to rebalance that power. There's an area that I see couples sometimes, though, get in a lot of trouble. I actually see this a lot. It's a term that Hope Ray talks about called the floating saint. And this idea of the floating saint is actually, I'm going to read this from her work because I feel like if I try to just say it, I will butcher it. And she says it so beautifully. Okay. So she talks about when a man becomes in tune with the pain he has caused his partner, he often can feel quite ashamed and quite guilty. Now, I'm going to pause right there. And when a man who wants to change and wants to heal the relationship, when he's in that place, then he can often feel a lot of guilt and remorse and shame for what he did. And so he knows this is, again, this is Hope. He knows how tenuous their conversations can be and how easily activated she can get by the things that feel triggering. He doesn't want to cause her more pain, and he doesn't want everything to result in an argument either. This is where the man needs to watch out for his liability in becoming the floating saint. A man acts as a floating saint when he detaches from his own needs, feelings, and thoughts and desires in order to acquiesce to his partner's framework. It's a method of keeping the peace in which he forfeits his own authenticity so he can perform the way he thinks his partner wants. Or I'm going to add, so he can perform in a way he thinks his partner will heal. But by abandoning his own footing on solid ground, he floats away from his truth, his needs. So he floats away from his truth, needless, wantless, and relatively emasculated in order not to cause a stir. But the problem is that his old behavior of duplicity is reactivated. I'm going to say that again. The problem is that his old behavior of duplicity is reactivated, just in a different form. He can't give her the transparent window into his soul that she so desperately wants, that she is so desperate for if he is not fully embodied and acting in authenticity. Some men have trouble identifying what they feel or need in the midst of these dialectics, and they need support to fully represent themselves and be themselves. So, in layman's terms, the floating saint is when he goes to this place of, I want to do whatever it takes to heal, which wonderful. That's great. I want to hold her pain. I want to make space for everything she's going through. But when he goes to the floating saint of, I am going to separate myself from anything I need, I want, my values, my authenticity, I'm going to move away from that and just become whatever she needs me to be. We move into this place where we no longer have authenticity. And then again, like she used the word, we reactivate that duplicity. Do you see how problematic that is? And here's the thing, as a betrayed partner, I wanted him to be everything I needed him to be. I had my list. I want you to care and think and feel about all these things in this certain way. Because to me, it was just the right way. And I say that the right way is in the right way of just how you heal a relationship after betrayal. The right way is how you treat me. The right way of how we can get out of this mess and how you can help me not feel all of this pain. But when he has to detach from himself to be able to do that, then I'm not actually getting what I want. Because what I want is a real version of him, and I want to see the real him. And I want to be connected to the real him, not the version of me that he thinks I want him to be, because that's what we had before. I want the version of him that's real and authentic. And truth is, I've had this fear in the past of, when he really shows me him, will I like that man? If he's only shown me who I want him to be all of these years, when he's actually authentic, will I want that man? And so I have to fight this challenge of accepting him being the person that he thinks that I want and showing up as the person I want, just accepting that with that duplicity, or being willing to open up my eyes and make space for him to show up authentically and me to get to know him and get to know for myself if that's the person that I really do want to be with. And often when we do get to see that person and we get to have that deeper level of intimacy, that will strengthen a relationship. And sometimes when all of the walls come down, we find that there isn't actually the relationship that we want there. And our values don't align and we don't connect. But knowing that with eyes wide open is so much better than going back or remaining in this place of duplicity. So watch out for that floating saint. So when we're trying to build this trust back in the relationship, when we're trying to heal the relationship, we need to be able to have where the partner who has betrayed, they need to be able to get to the space where they can hold space for all of the pain they caused, to be accountable for it. That's essential. We're not going to have relational healing without it. And it has to be done through a lens of authenticity. It has to be done when we're not in that place of being a floating saint. If you haven't caught on yet, I love Hope's work, and bringing it in to this piece of healing is so essential. On the floating saint, I had a couple before. This is a combination of many couples I've had, but I've had couples where she is in so much pain, rightfully. And I hate using gender, but the couple of couples that I'm clumping together in my mind for this example does happen to be where he betrayed and she is the betrayed partner. So I'm going to use he and she in this example. But I want to just put out there that betrayal goes both ways. I'm working with females who have betrayed currently. I am working with males who have betrayed currently. In this example, where she has been betrayed and she wants so bad to have this healing. And she is getting triggered all of the time. She's triggered when he's there. She's triggered when he's not there. The memories that are coming up, the PTSD and the trauma is so real that she's living and breathing it. And he is trying really hard to heal the relationship. He's trying really hard to heal the relationship. And he often feels no matter what I do is not enough. I'm showing up, I'm doing everything that she tells me to do, and she's still not happy. And a lot of times when we dive into here are the things that he is doing. More often than not, he's got the list. It's the list she's given him, and he is checking all those boxes. And it's not that he's checking the boxes just to check the boxes. He's checking the boxes because he really wants to show up and do the work well and do it right. But he's also holding back and hiding. He's hiding how he is feeling. He's hiding what's coming up for him. He's hiding what's authentic for him. He's hiding things that he would like to actually add to his recovery or remove from his recovery. And he keeps those all to himself because he is going to do exactly what she needs and wants. And this can get confusing. And that's the floating saint right there. And this can get confusing because we're back at the beginning. I'm saying, hey, there's this power and difference, and there is this abuse, and we have to change this power differential, and we have to give the person who's been betrayed more knowledge and more power. We want to give that to them, but it can't be at the loss of self. Because the whole issue we had here was this disconnecting from values and disconnecting from self. And there has to be this authenticity put back in for trust to actually be rebuilt because your brain and your body are so smart. If he is showing up or they're showing up and they're just checking the boxes, your brain and body, if it's not authentic and real to who they really are, you will feel the difference. And trust will not be fully, truly rebuilt if we still have this pattern continuing of this duplicity. So we have to avoid the floating saint, and both individuals have to be doing work in their individual work around what their values are and learning how to live in their values, be authentic, and be able to speak and live and stand in their authenticity. That, I will just say, is something that I highly suggest working with a trained professional on. That's not one thing that I would just say, hey, go journal and do on your own, especially for the person who has betrayed doing this type of work, because our brain has so many protector parts and blocks that prevent us from seeing painful parts and pieces of ourselves that it's really hard to do this work if we don't have somebody else that we are forced to hold that holds up a mirror to us to see things that we don't want to see on our own. And we may want to see them, but where our brain is hardwired to protect itself and avoid pain and avoid discomfort and seek pleasure, those protections can be pretty intense. I was in a therapy session and I'm sitting with the therapist, and he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's holding up the mirror. And as he holds up the mirror, it's so uncomfortable. And I hear things coming out of my mouth. Now, before I went into the therapy session, I had spent so much time journaling and thinking and processing and feeling like I knew where I was at. But there's something that happens when I'm talking to another person and I see it and I hear it, what I'm saying. And then he reflects back what he's hearing. And then he's asking me questions. And the way that takes off layers and it helps me see it in a totally different way is so essential to this type of healing. The next thing we want to look at in the rebuilding the trust is building boundaries. And boundaries, we have so many episodes on boundaries. I'm not going to go super in depth into them. But boundaries, the minute we hear it, we tend to go boundaries equal walls. And boundaries aren't walls. Boundaries are information you give to other people as a gift that lets them know what you'll accept and what you won't accept. And it's a gift you give yourself that builds that self trust that says, hey, I can trust me and I can keep myself safe and I can show up for myself. And the more that we build that self trust, it allows us to then be able to trust others. So, doing your work around boundaries for yourself so we can also be building that self trust. Super essential in the building the trust. And the final thing that I'll leave with on trust, and we could do many more episodes on this, we've done many in the past, but the final thing that I want to leave on trust today is the idea of consistency. Every time we've ever talked about trust, I'm pretty sure I have used the quote of consistency over time builds trust. Consistency over time does not mean perfection over time. And I see both partners get stuck in that trap. Both of you. It does not equal perfection. And the idea of anything but perfection for the betrayed partner, I know sounds so scary and it feels so threatening. And I am not giving permission to go back into the acting out behaviors. There still needs to be accountability. There has to be work with that. And we have to give room and space for ourselves to be imperfect as we learn and grow. We have to give space for us to be learning. And as we are learning and growing, it's like that stock market of the up and down. Our trend line should be headed up. And as we are headed up, never have I seen a stock market, a stock that just goes straight up without any dips. We will have periods that go a little bit up and down, but we should be trending upward. We have to remove this idea of perfection in our healing because that's not how we're wired as humans. We will have human experiences. And when we leave room for that imperfection, we give an opportunity then to learn from when we make mistakes. So, going back to trust, trust is built on the foundation of transparency and honesty and truth telling. But if there is no room for anything but perfection, it is going to make it very difficult, if not impossible, to really step into that truth. So we have to take perfection off the table. And then we build in this clunky, messy, hard, difficult place of learning and growing and messing up and not doing it perfectly, and then learning and growing from that. And each time getting a little bit better and learning more tools and more understanding. And as it's safe, talking and connecting, the consistency doesn't come of I'm just instantly perfect. And now I must maintain that and hold that. It comes from I do this and I do it well. And then I do this and I don't do it well. So what did I do wrong? Okay, now I'm going to build this onto what I already have. And we're going to work and try on this. And we're going to build and we're going to do this scaffolding as we grow. And then we look for that consistency over time. Trust, we have to give the time for that to be built. For my partners who have betrayed, have patience with your partner that you've hurt. Usually, the amount of patience and time that's needed is going to be 10 times what your body and brain want it to be. And that's not because your partner who has been injured is doing it wrong or they're not doing their work. It's because this type of injury is so damaging that they need time to heal. And healing is not instant. So give them the time and space to heal. And the more that you are authentic and open and transparent and giving them real you, the more opportunity it has to create that environment that they can heal in. So it's all hard work. It is the richest, most important work you'll ever do. And if you continue in this work, you as an individual can heal. If both people are continuing to work on this work and they're coming together, it gives the relationship an opportunity to heal. It will be difficult. It will be messy. It will be hard. There are great rewards that come of it. Even if your relationship does not last, I guarantee this type of work will benefit all relationships in your life. I look at ways that I can connect with my kids today versus prior, and it is so different. And the tools I have today, I would never want to give them up for anything. Do I want to go through betrayal again? Absolutely not. And I am so thankful for these tools that I've learned on the path. So stick with me and Amy, stick with the path. Healing is possible. And relationships can build back trust. You would think, after all of the things I've been through in my relationship, that I would not be able to trust again. And I did. I got to this place where I can trust. And that I did not think I would ever have. And it did not come because I sat and waited for him to change. It came because I did my work and I learned how to trust myself. And I learned what behaviors could be trustworthy behaviors. And I owned and recognized areas that maybe trust didn't come back. And I let trust come in the areas it came. And the areas I was still working on, I let those areas be areas I was still working on. And I let it be a journey. And in that, there was freedom and healing. So thank you for hanging out with me today. And as always, thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you next week.